Mr. Najafizada, welcome to NexusTalk.
Thank you. It's such an honor to be with you.
Thank you so much. I think you might know that you're the very first male guest on our show, and I think our audience might be wondering why that is, as
I'm glad.
Our organization focuses on women's stories, hence the name HerStory. But I think it goes back to, the importance of your work in being a trailblazer for truthful journalism in Afghanistan, paving the path for not only women, not only men, but also women to, seek that truth and give it to people who deserve it the most. And
that's very kind of you.
Thank you. And I'm really honored to be sitting here with you today and talk to you and switch seats so that we can hear your story and give you a break from being the interviewer for your whole lifetime. So thank you for taking the time to do this.
Well, sitting down with you, it makes me feel that I should be actually interviewing you, especially with your achievements in the past year.
Thank you.
And also the fact that today, when we record this interview, is the first day of the education year in Afghanistan. And for the fifth year, girls of your age are not going to school. So it's very heavy on our shoulders. And also very important sort of to sit down, especially with you, to talk about it. And I'm very excited and looking forward to our conversation.
Thank you. So I know that you've had a very long professional career in journalism. And if we talk about politics, we have to include Mr. Najafizada in it. Politics in Afghanistan, of course. But apart from that, we rarely hear about your, personal life story. Can you tell us about your earlier years in Afghanistan? What memories and parts of Afghanistan do you carry with yourself?
Well, yes, I've been a journalist for about 2 decades, and I started being a journalist before you were born. And before that, during the Civil War, we were on the run from one province to the other in Afghanistan, and born in Kabul, raised in Kabul, Ghazni, Mazar. But most of my life, has been focused in Afghanistan as a journalist. Traveled throughout the country. Did a lot of field reporting in the early years.
Yeah.
Up in the north, in Pulakhumri. In particular, I spent there when I was your age. I was doing journalism for a NATO-owned newspaper called Sadai Azadi. I was a print journalist, and then I moved to Kabul. So that part of my life, I assume, is very well documented.
So you started journalism when you were 17, 18?
Yes.
Where did the inspiration come from? I think that's a very early age.
It was very trendy, I would say.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I didn't know what I was getting myself into, but it was in the family. We had other seasoned senior journalists, successful, also in the society. And that was sort of a family strength as well. Yes, and I'm glad that I joined the caravan of journalists of Najafizada family. But you can also reflect now that, given that you and I are sitting in Canada, and what happened to Afghanistan, particularly women.
Sure.
We can also talk about whether we made the right career choices.
Well, we'll get to that part, but can you tell us about, you said your family started, like your inspiration for journalism came from your family. Can you tell us more about that?
Yes, one of my elder cousins, who is a far more successful journalist than I am, Harun Najafizada. He was a very established journalist. We were all, and we still are, looking up to him. and other cousins were already in the media field when I stepped in as a journalist. So that encouragement, I would say, more than encouragement, they guided us and helped us walk this path in the early years. But the environment in Afghanistan was ready. Was ready when I was your age. We were talking about a different Afghanistan. We were talking about fresh air. You had the wings to fly. You had the land to conquer. You had the opportunities to grasp. And it's very tragic to see where we are today. So in the early years of my career in journalism, I think Afghanistan was ready for a journey, a democratic journey, and that encouraged a lot of people. It gave us the confidence, which is very important for young people, and hope. So I would say I had the family support, I had the society, and the country as a whole that really embraced us. That in a way enabled us sort of to join this journey and become one of the 10,000 members of the Afghan media that Afghanistan in a way produced over the past 2 decades, and that's why in a way we're still able to continue that because of the very strong foundation.
That is awesome, and I wanted to talk about your work in journalism right now in Afghanistan, but we will get to that later. But reflecting on the past 20 years, you said you've been a journalist for 2 decades. Having lived through the first Taliban regime and beyond, how do you think journalism was changing in Afghanistan? The Taliban's first period of ruling had just finished. There was hope, like you mentioned, but then there's the fall again. How do you think journalism is being changed all throughout this political change?
So in the first term of the Taliban, 1996 to 2001, television was banned, music was banned, people were not allowed to even watch television, state TV was shut down. So Taliban had a relatively different, I would say, can't say strategy, but a different approach to controlling the narrative and censorship. And then 20 years later, they have realized that this is a different world. It's a world of social media, a world of internet. 20 million cell phones are in that country. People have access to internet. That is why they have, I would say, maintained the fundamental look at press, that this is, in a way, media and journalism is a state profession. It is to support the cause of the state, their ideology. But the way they use it is different. They've allowed private media to operate. They've allowed, they have their own state-run media outlets. They have also, the members of the Taliban have created their own media outlets as well. So in terms of numbers, you see a lot of media outlets in the country right now. In terms of press freedom, you can look at the RSF annual press freedom index, that Afghanistan is at the very bottom. So there is no free press in Afghanistan. I think someone like me should be very bold about it. That this is very tragic, especially when Afghanistan was the deadliest country for journalists for 20 years. We lost over 100 journalists in Afghanistan, and including 11, 12 of my colleagues, people that I work with, that I spent days with, that I hired, I supported, and some of them I still have them in my dreams. They have not really left me. So that's why I think it's important for us to continue their legacy and build on what they achieved. But in the country, the Taliban, to your question, they have done everything they could to reverse that, and they have been in a way successful as well.
You talked about Afghanistan being the deadliest country for journalists.
Yes.
But I did mention that you were a truth seeker. And in a country like Afghanistan, when the political games were too complex for an average Afghan to understand, but we were curious, we wanted the answers. You were the one who was advocating for the general people of Afghanistan, sitting in conversations like this with political figures and asking them really difficult questions. Were you ever scared?
I mean, this was part of the job, right? This is what we knew from day one, that if you want democracy to take root in a society like Afghanistan that has gone through so much ups and downs, look at the past 50 years. Someone said that this was the lab for testing political systems. In a way, that's accurate. So when we had the opportunity to plant the seeds of democracy, and for that plant and that seed to nurture, it is media and press freedom is fundamental. It's in a way the oxygen for that, and we knew our job, and I think that was the reason that the Afghan media took a lot of risk. Afghan journalists took a lot of risk to speak truth to power, to confront so many challenges, to deal with challenges such as there were weeks that I was not able to go home. There were sometimes I was not even allowed to use the same car twice in a week or so. We were changing houses every now and then. So it was difficult, yes. It was not just the fear from people you were talking to, but also the fear from people that you were not talking to.
True.
But overall, I think everybody was very laser focused on what was the mission, and the mission was to empower the Afghan people, give them the information, entertain them, educate them, and inform them, so they can make the right decision for themselves. And that was the reason 8 million people voted in presidential elections. That was the reason a lot of people went to school, particularly girls. That I would say, I don't want to take the credit, but that Afghanistan allowed people like you to represent all of us on the world stage today.
Yeah, and I really, when I think about the past 20 years, I call it the past 20 years of so-called freedom, because of course we still had, explosion attacks, suicide bombing, but it really gave the chance, like you said, for girls like me to learn English, to speak like this, although it's my second language, and to have the confidence to dream as if that dream can be possible. Because when we look at Afghanistan right now, it seems like even dreaming about being capable as a woman is, a rare thing. What do you think, empowerment for women right now in Afghanistan can look like?
Most important is through education. I agree with you. When you kill the hope, when you kill the confidence, you kill the future of any generation. And today there is a deliberate, systematic attack against women, on women, and trying to kill their future, take away what they have built over the years. And that's why they have targeted education. And it is so sickening that is the 5th year that over 2 million girls cannot go to school above grade 6. And nobody cares about it. And there isn't much, we can do. And I think we have to be creative in trying to address this challenge. This is a common, this is a collective responsibility of all of us. This is not only a problem of women of Afghanistan or the girls of Afghanistan or this part of Afghanistan or that part of Afghanistan. This is a collective challenge warranting collective approach and collective responsibility to find creative ways. And one is to empower girls through education, whether that's online, whether that's underground, whether that is through other means, whether that's being able to connect them with girls like you overseas, so they can look up to and be able to communicate, and use some of the opportunities that we have today. We use that in the media field, for instance, that loophole which is there. So that would probably be my number one suggestion. That okay, advocacy is important. We should be able to talk about women's rights. We should be able to take Taliban to international courts. We should be able to sort of let the world know what's happening. These are great initiatives. These are great causes. But we have to make sure when I drop my kindergarten age daughter at school every morning, I think about those 2 million girls who are not able to go to school. And it reminds me also of my elder sisters who were not able to go to school when the Taliban took power first time around. And I know what happened to their lives. And it changed them forever. So opportunity is particularly, it's not even an opportunity, it's the right of them, and you can't just take it away from them. So I think empowerment through education is detrimental. So my approach to this would be education, education, and education.
Mr. Najafizada, you talked about the past 2 decades in Afghanistan, and when we think about the opportunities, the growing activism, freedom of expression, and the fact that I could go to school, my friends could go pursue their hobbies and arts and sports, it all felt like a sign of a brighter future for Afghanistan. As someone who was politically engaged and deeply informed about the situation back home, did you ever feel that this so-called temporary peace would eventually come to an end?
I think there was no permanent peace. This was a journey, a new beginning for the country, that its future depended on how we operated and how we led as Afghans, which I'm very critical of course. I think yes, the feeling was there. Personally, we thought that we had all the the wings to fly. We had the fresh air to take in and try to use the opportunity and build a new future for Afghanistan. Those feelings were there. Yeah. We had the tools for that. Yes and no. We had challenges enormous. I think the fact that the Afghan leadership demonstrated an immense ignorance to the fact that this is ultimately our country. This is our responsibility, and it is primarily our decision to shape our future. That resulted in a way that this fatigue was created in the West. That okay, if they don't build their own country, why should we? Yeah. And that's why I think over time, this lack of leadership and lack of ownership of our affairs, of our country, of our motherland, disencouraged a lot of people to abandon their country, to leave Afghanistan. I'm talking about Afghans. And then of course also the international community, they gave up. and ultimately gave up in a very tragic way that resulted in a full Taliban takeover. But back in the days, yes, I think the takeoff was good, but it wasn't well managed.
So what I'm understanding is that it was a failure in the government.
I think it was a leadership failure overall. It was an Afghan leadership failure. You look at what's happening in Ukraine today, and elsewhere as well. There is conflict in the Middle East, and I think what is very important for any country is to understand that when there is a problem in their country, it is for the leadership of that country to make the right decisions. For Afghanistan, we thought it was part of the United States, and we were hired to sort of to manage the day-to-day affairs. And the Americans were in charge of the economy, the Americans were in charge of politics, the Americans were in charge of security, the Americans were in charge of running the society. When I was your age, back in Pulkhumbri in Baghlan in northern Afghanistan, there was every year we have a natural disaster in the country, and there was flooding in Pulkhumbri. And then the district people from a particular village came to the governor's office. We went there for reporting, and then the governor said people wanted first aid help, such as tents and water and other shelters and help. And the governor called the local Hungarian provincial reconstruction team. So there's the Hungarian commander of a NATO contingent based in the province came over, and then the people ignored the governor. They were talking to this commander, and I was a young reporter in the room, and I realized that these local villagers in Baghlan, they see this guy, this Hungarian colonel, as the man in charge of the province.
Yeah.
And I had this feeling that this is wrong. His job was to sort of support the Afghan institutions, the Afghan leadership, not to replace it. And later in the years when I was in Kabul, and I saw that at a national level, that this is why I think we, in a way, did not really see the writing on the wall when disaster struck. And that's why I think over a long period of time we realized that probably things it was already too late.
So you've run us through the Afghan perspective, but in your idea, what was the perspective of the international community when they were on the ground and sort of asked to be acting as the leader?
The international community, of course, there were 50 nations in Afghanistan, part of NATO. And then so many others beyond NATO. They had civilian presence. They had humanitarian programs in the country. They had different perspectives, but we can summarize it in two camps. One group of nations, they were there to support the American presence. They were there for the United States. They went in with the U.S., they left with the U.S. They were not there for Afghanistan. And the U.S. objectives and missions were changing from commander to commander, ambassador to ambassador, administration to administration.
Okay.
It started with nation building, and then war on terror, counterinsurgency, counter-terrorism. Of course, sometimes women's rights and all of that, part of the nation building and part of, building a democratic Afghanistan. And then in 2021, President Biden said that, once I went to Afghanistan and I saw in the mountains of Kunar that this country will never be united. and that's why he never really believed in a stronger U.S. Footprint in the country. So that's one camp. The other camp was, of course, certain countries who really wanted the Afghans to help, and I think a lot of Americans believed that this country had a chance, and they still do, and that's why there is a continued interest and support, particularly in the Afghan civil society. There's so many countries that are still supporting humanitarian programs in the country. But you needed an Afghan leadership to bring everybody together, right? When you have 50 nations, when you have 50 guests at your house, and they all want to sort of party in their own way. They have their own wish list. Yeah. You can't really sort of synchronize, sure, and have a collective gathering. And I think a lot of these countries in Afghanistan had this confusion of what really the mission was.
And I think all of this is, I think a lot of people would benefit from this wisdom that you just shared. But let's go back to where that wisdom came from, your role as a journalist. And how do you think you paved the way for more journalists, especially for women journalists, through your leadership in Tolo TV and beyond?
Well, it's not really for me to take a lot of credit, but I was part of a larger team of journalists who believed that this is a new Afghanistan, and this new Afghanistan is for everyone, particularly for journalists to play a role, and for female journalists. So we had very strong senior female journalists that I often described as the backbone of our newsroom. When I started being a journalist, women journalists were mostly covering women issues and sometimes social issues, but that changed over time. They were doing political issues, they were covering security, they were embedding with the army, with the police, they were going to the front lines, they were doing corruption-related stories. So you could not really tell based on gender that, okay, this is how stories should sort of be assigned to female journalists or male journalists. And also, this was about women appearing on television. I remember days when women were only invited to talk shows on women issues. And we changed that. We said, this is not correct. Women should be able to talk about everything. And you could, that was, I would say, a real empowerment of not particularly those individuals, but also the mindset that, okay, if you want to hear a security perspective, it doesn't have to be a male or a male general with years of experience in a battlefield. An amazing female researcher or scholar who has studied war and counterinsurgency can provide equally eloquent and rich content and make good contributions on a program. So yes, particularly in the newsroom that I was working in Afghanistan, we had a lot of good female journalists, and I'm happy that most of them are still in the profession. And one thing that I think changed our perspective about our job and our profession was that this is like any other profession. This is not sort of a preset for something else. This is not that you become a journalist so you can become something. You become a politician. You become a journalist for 5 years and then you become, you go to a government job or something. once you're a journalist for all your life. I was giving this example of being a carpenter. If you're a carpenter for all your life. Yes, you can be a senior carpenter. You can sort of have your own shop. You can have multiple shops. But this is your thing. Mm-hmm. And for us, it's the same. Things have changed. We have left our country for the reasons that are obvious. But our profession is the same. For women journalists as well. So most of those female journalists that I'm referring to, that I was sharing a newsroom with, they are still in their profession. And they are in Europe, some of them are in Afghanistan, some of them are in North America. And that gives me this strength that, okay, we built something solid together.
Yeah. And I think when you talk about journalism overall, especially, how women were included in this space, I see the joy in your eyes, and I can tell that this is something that you love. Therefore, you've been in this field for such a long time. What would you say your most favorite part about being the one who asks the questions?
Well, that was not my main job, as you know. I was only doing interviews when there was nobody else to do it. So my job, I was an editor that was what paid, and I was the head of TOLOnews for about a decade. And for that, I made editorial decisions. I chaired editorial meetings. I did assignments for journalists, and I was actively looking for stories and also managing the day-to-day relationship and affairs of the outlet. And every now and then, I was also on the screen, but I was not hired to be on a screen.
So that was 5% of the job?
That was, yeah. I mean, you can probably even count, the number of times that I was on a screen. Yes, I did some high-profile and controversial interviews, but that was not my usual sort of job. And my other colleagues did most of the work. We had very well-established regular shows that both men and women presented it, that I was happy to be on the production team, help them deliver it.
So if I was wrong about, that part of your life being, that part of being the one who asks the questions, being 5% of the job, overall, what was your favorite part about being the one who, the editor, the leader in Tula TV, and all of those things combined? What was the most fulfilling part about it?
I think it's the whole thing as a package, and it's the sort of the overall impact. I'm a very output-driven person as a manager. I really focus on what is the end state, and the end state of our mission at Tolo, and particularly in the media sector, was to create this environment for the Afghan people to come and express their views. Mm-hmm. 3,000 people were coming on our programs in Afghanistan every month, and we were talking to 3,000 people across the country. That one friend once said that one of the reasons that we don't have revolutions in Afghanistan is because people find enough space in the media to express their views and express their angers and frustrations, so they really don't have to go and topple regimes and governments. Mm-hmm. I think the media allowed the Afghan people to come and express their views, and I'm very proud to have for having a tiny role in that. Yes, there were also tough moments, I would say. If you ask me what were some of the saddest moments of my time in Afghanistan, that included when I lost my colleagues. 20th of January 2016, 5th of September 2018, 31st of April 2018, and 3rd of May 2019. These are the days that is very hard for me to forget. When we lost colleagues, and that also really shook in our core. As human beings, also as journalists, as Afghans, that we have to wake up. And those lives that we lost are not going to come back. We try to do things for them. I've created a fellowship for 2 of those fallen colleagues, Samim and Ramiz, young Afghan journalists in different provinces of the country. Go do internships and getting education. But this is not going to bring Samim back. Yeah, and for me, this is something that's going to be with me for the rest of my life.
And we can definitely tell because you told us all of the different dates, specific dates, which I think really makes me emotional because we lost a lot of lives. Back in Afghanistan, there were suicide bombs in education centers. My brothers had first-hand experiences, and fortunately I didn't. But the school I went to was threatened several times. And that was the reality of our day-to-day lives. And although some people might now think that Afghanistan is at least safe, which is what I see in the Western media a lot portrayed about Afghanistan, it doesn't cover the fact that life is not like it was before in Afghanistan. But I want to go back to what you said about media and revolution. Don't you think that media expressing your opinions and kind of protesting is a form of revolution?
It is.
Itself?
It is. Yes. It is. I think it revolutionized the society in a very civil way. And that's why I think it's sort of an extra layer of joy and satisfaction for us that we helped enable the society to express their views and bring about changes that they wanted. But it's so sad and also difficult to talk about some of these achievements against the backdrop of what happened in 2021. That at times you really think that all this is just meaningless. But then you have to remind yourself that no, this is definitely a sudden and abrupt, I would say, disruption. But it's not the end of the road.
I like the use of the word disruption because it makes you feel like there is more to come. This isn't the end.
It must be.
Yeah.
It must be.
I want to go back to the risk of being a journalist. And you talked about having to move homes, take different vehicles. Was there a moment you considered stopping this work because it was putting you and your family at risk?
Not myself. My mom did every night. Yeah, that this is your last day. But no, I mean I was very committed to it, and I still am.
There's no more you want to share? That's it.
Well, some of those fights that you have with your mothers, we all do, right? No, I think we were after 2016 attack. That we lost 7 of our colleagues in a Taliban bus bombing. The leaders of Tolo consulted with all 700-800 staff members that we had. That if you want us to shut down, we're going to shut down. And because nobody wanted to take further risk.
Yeah.
And almost everybody said that no, in order to honor the sacrifices of these colleagues, we have to continue with greater resolve, with more commitment. And then, who am I to really to to leave that mission. I think no, we understood the risk, we navigated the challenges, but I was very committed, and I think most of my colleagues were as well, and that's why you still have a very strong Afghan media. I call them hybrid media, that we have one foot in, one foot out. We have journalists on the ground, we have journalists outside. We work together, they have access, we have freedom to report. We couple the two, and then we inform the Afghan people via creative means such as satellite TV. And then when our show is done, we go do our Ubers, we go work somewhere else to also support our families, and in order to be able to live in the West. But we can't wait for tomorrow morning to go back to the studio to do another piece. And that commitment, I think, is a continuation of what was built in Afghanistan.
Yeah, I really like that you mentioned that, because I think I'm going to bring in my perspective as a 18-year-old Afghan girl who has been in diaspora for at least 4 years now. You carry the sense of, I have to do something for what happened. I can't just leave that behind. But you also have a life to restart in, the new country that you went in. Do you think the motivation comes from survivor's guilt, or is there more to it, or being a part of a bigger reason coming from Afghanistan?
It's not a guilt, right? It's what we know, it's what we're good at, it's what we love to do. We should not forget that we also seek and get satisfaction from what we do. And that's why we wake up and go to work and do what we do, no matter in what line of work we are. And that sort of commitment also comes from the impact that we have on the ground, and what you've achieved, particularly in the past couple of years, is extraordinary.
Thank you.
And I feel like I've lost it that you are interviewing me rather than me interviewing you. I should have approached you first.
Well, this can be a conversation. Right? I'm sharing a bit of my story.
And you should. And I think we should probably do another sit down, and so I love to hear more. This is because of not guilt. This is because of our focus and confidence that we can do it, and our clarity that there is a future for tomorrow.
Talking about the satisfaction and touching upon a little bit of the work that you do right now, can you tell us about the fact that as soon as you left Afghanistan, I'm not very sure what that journey looked like for you, but you're based in Toronto right now.
Yes.
Traveling here and there, but you started Amu TV.
Yes.
Can you tell us about what it does for those who don't know?
So Amu TV is sort of a small TV channel on free-to-air satellite, broadcasting from the United States, Washington, D.C. area, into Afghanistan. So people in Afghanistan who watch television, they watch Amu TV the same way they watch any other local channel. The good thing about Afghan media, particularly TV stations, is that they're all on a foreign satellite. So that is a loophole, the loophole that we found, that okay, this is beyond Taliban's capacity to jam and stop our signals. So we went that route. And Amu TV, we set it up before I moved to Canada as a refugee. So I was in the States after the fall of Kabul. I did a fellowship at the University of Chicago for a few months, and then also trying to sort of find help for Amu TV. And Amu TV was set up. So once we had the clarity that we're going to set up a TV channel that's going to be based here, and these are some of the initial resources that we managed to secure immediately from NGOs and from individual supporters who believed in our cause. Then I said, okay, now that I have to go find a place where I can call, if I can, home. Mm-hmm. And that's when I moved to Canada and became a refugee here. So a refugee here and who's traveling between here and Washington, D.C. Quite regularly for work.
You talked about, before the interview, you talked about a show that you run through Amu TV, which I would love to hear more about. Do you want to share a bit about that?
Yes. So this show is called Johnning Up, the Soul of the Conversation. The reason we talked about it is because Canada's leading newspaper, the Globe and Mail, did a profile on the show. So that show is a young woman sitting in Virginia, live, talking to millions of Afghans who are watching her on their TV screens across the country, particularly in rural Afghanistan, because and then these people, there's a phone number on the TV screen, so they call her on WhatsApp, which is free
and accessible.
And during 1 hour that the show is live, she gets between 3,000 to 6,000 calls.
Which is mind-blowing.
Yeah, I mean, she's only able to talk like to 20 or 30 of them. Of course, you can't talk to thousands of people, but that is the number of missed calls she gets. And then we have to turn off the phone, and sometimes the phone, dies because there's so many calls. So that is enormous. And these people are mostly, just imagine, I mean, who would see a phone number on the TV and call? These are ordinary Afghans, particularly in rural Afghanistan, that, okay, they see an opportunity that they can express their views. And there are people, you must be trying so hard to make it on the show.
Yeah.
And the topics are mostly about social issues, access to health, education. I think on one of the shows on the Valentine's Day, they received like 6,000 calls, and that is when the Taliban go and block the flower street in Kabul, so people are not allowed to buy flowers.
Wow.
On the Valentine's Day.
Okay.
So a lot of people who were calling, they were complaining about this and restrictions on girls, restrictions on love, restrictions on on empathy, and that show is such a hit, is such a success story. And remember when I talked about output and impact, this is what I meant.
Yeah.
That, okay, if we are able to sort of connect with millions of people, and thousands of them would like to talk to our producers and our presenters on this show, which is only, by the way, happening in the weekends, Saturday, Sunday, because the presenter and the producer, they have to go do other jobs during the week.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So we can't afford to have them full time. So as a result, we miss on thousands of other people, who might have called and voices could have been heard.
I think it really makes me happy to see that there's so many calls that you're receiving, because it signals that they're still hopeful. They still see an opportunity to speak truth and share the realities of Afghanistan, because I feel like sometimes, my fear is that the stories from Afghanistan will not get out. That was the reason why we started HerStory and I started interviewing girls.
Yes.
But I think this is a much more accessible way of giving the floor to Afghan people to tell their stories.
Yes.
And I hope there is a future where this show is expanded to all days of the week, so there can be more calls answered.
Yes. And so also the freedom that people are allowed to express their views, because if there's a call-in show in Afghanistan, first you have to clear the topic with the Taliban. Second, if somebody is critical of the Taliban, then you have to provide the phone number to the Taliban so they can go after that individual and say why you criticized. We have people in jail because of Facebook posts. We have people in jail because of a hard comment on television that is not in line with the Taliban's ideology. So that's why it's safer. It is creative. It is impactful. It connects the society within, right? Thousands of people talking to each other without the Taliban being able to penetrate or control them.
Yeah.
Right, and sometimes they also phone in, and that is also in the story that I'd love for you to read it when you have time. It's a fascinating piece, and that show is I think it's empowering people. And you said it's heartwarming to see that so many people are calling. It's also a reality that we're dealing with. This is the Afghanistan that we all left. This is not us preaching democracy from 10,000 of miles away. This is us trying to extend the helping hand.
Yeah.
This is us, you, trying to enable sort of people to flourish. And this is not even a two-way conversation. This is just us providing a platform for people to talk to each other. And that is so different to what other diaspora communities do. There is so much for us to learn from the Iranians, 47 years into the diaspora, and they have tried all sorts of things from afar, and then we can rate the level of success and failures. And there's so much for us sort of to unpack. And there are other countries as well, Myanmar and others in Africa and Latin America, that us as sort of the new wave of Afghans who have just left our country 4 or 5 years ago, and trying to sort of remain in touch. I think it's see what works and what doesn't. Yeah, and I believe what works is to first believe in that Afghanistan or whatever country that we talk about, it is located where it is located. There is no other Afghanistan. There is no Afghanistan in Canada. There is no Afghanistan in Europe. Afghanistan is where it is. We are Afghans, people of Afghanistan in the diaspora. Of course, part of that nation, helping. But we can't create another Afghanistan of our own. In our minds, and then try to compete with that Afghanistan.
Do you see that happening?
Sometimes, yes, which is sad. It's also because of the lack of, I would say, a very coherent strategy on how you want to help. I think the intentions are all right, everybody wants to help.
Yeah.
There are over $1 billion of remittance sent to Afghanistan every year. So the Afghan economy is heavily dependent on the $100 that you send or I send to our relatives in the country. But we also should allow people inside the country to be able to express their views and make their own decisions.
Can I ask a follow-up? Because I feel like our audience may understand this, but I am just curious to learn more. What does it look like when you said that, Afghanistan is in Afghanistan and we can't build another Afghanistan outside of it? What do you think people are getting wrong when they're doing the vice versa? The opposite of it?
It depends what kind of data set you're dealing with. If you are detached from the realities of the country, then your sentiments lead you to a wrong direction. 400 drug addicts were killed last week in Kabul, in Pakistan bombing. And people in the West, Afghans here, they don't believe it. They say, oh no, these are Taliban, fighters who were there. And we have done investigative pieces, we have done interviews, and there are other interviews out there. And then we have this imagination in our head that is actually imprisoning us. We have left one prison and then have created another prison for ourselves. And that is because of our sort of, in a way, ill-informed analysis and understanding of what's happening. I think it's very important that for every Afghan member of the diaspora, particularly those who would like to remain involved and engaged in Afghanistan, is to wake up, make one call back home, see what's happening, talk to a diverse set of people, right? Let them speak. Yeah. And sort of remain up to date.
I know what you mean now more, because it's the fact that it's sad to acknowledge that once you're out of Afghanistan, Afghanistan kind of fades out of you, because you have to, restart your new life. And even if you want it or not, it is forgettable. Things are your personality, your culture, well, there are ways to maintain both, but I like that you emphasize that there has to be a connection with Afghanistan within, people who are on the ground, to, especially for people who are advocating or in politics.
Yes.
So that they are sending the message of what is currently happening, not what they remember. And that's a great reminder for me. So thank you for that.
I mean, if you and I have been talking about Afghanistan for the past, I don't know, half an hour, we don't have this luxury of looking at it sort of at a very surface. This is our job, right? And this is why we have to imagine that we are inside the country and we deal with these people on a daily basis. Yes, if somebody is here and who's going to school and has other priorities and is from Afghan origins, great. I have nothing against that. I don't want, actually, it's not even healthy to have 8 million advocates overseas. I think there are about 8 million Afghans living overseas now. No, those who have chosen to do this, we have to do it properly.
Talking about healthy, how do you deal with the emotional aspect of this work when it becomes too challenging to hear what's going on, when we feel like we can do so little? Our work is impactful, and we have to remember that. But advocacy and activism, journalism, for my case, and advocacy, it seems like it's a far game. It's a marathon, not a sprint. So how do you deal with the emotional part of this work?
Well, to sit down and talk to people like you. I mean, that is very, it's a very healthy thing to do, is to see that we can still do this. For me, my therapy is to sort of engage, particularly with young Afghans, and hear their stories and share mine.
It's the same for me. Talking to people who...
That's what we should do, and more. Yeah, it's tough, I know. We have to acknowledge it. But we also have to acknowledge the mental health problem that we have inside the country. Right? For women who can't go to hospital, for women who can't even go to park. And imagine the day that you're not leaving your room, and you're there, and then the grumpiness and you fight with everyone at home, and that's your one day.
Mm.
But for 20 million women in Afghanistan, that's their daily life.
And we shouldn't forget that. That really can be empowering in being a source of resilience for people who might sometimes feel like they might want to give up. You've talked about the role of youth and youth being a source of hope, especially Afghan youth in diaspora. What is your advice when it comes to what they can do in the face of what's going on in Afghanistan, but also in the face of if they were to pursue journalism? What would your advice be?
Journalism, yes, welcome, of course. We need a lot of support and new sort of capacity. People who can create great content. That is definitely something very important. But overall, I think the power of our youth is to be creative, to understand the challenges in the country and deal with it from a very fresh youth perspective. Whether that is through developing applications or doing podcasts or engaging in call-in shows that our colleagues do. These are actions, not just words. I think this is the power of our youth, that they can prioritize or at least couple talks with actions, be it a small. Support 2 girls in your extended family in Afghanistan to make sure they have access to some sort of online education. Pay for their internet fee, pay for their tuitions, send them books, empower sort of your own family. And everybody does that, then we empower the whole society. And then the youth should not also forget that, as you said, particularly for people like you, and to an extent for me too, this is something for the rest of our lives. This is we've committed to do this forever, for as long as we live. And this is not an internship here or a job there.
Yes.
Or that we are in our 60s or 70s, that we have sort of done our bit, and we want to carve out a future for the generations and years that we're not going to be part of. I think that strong commitment to leadership has to come from youth.
Yeah.
And I agree with you, this is a long-term thing. With the Taliban or without the Taliban, this is a long-term undertaking. And we have to come up together and build that strategy.
And I really appreciate that you took the time to sit here and talk about these things, because that contributes to, people my age listening to this conversation. And you're kind of passing down the wisdom that you gained from 2 decades of work in politics and journalism in Afghanistan. But aside from this conversation being that source of passing down the wisdom, how do you think you can pass down that wisdom to the young generation of Afghans out there?
I think we should talk more. We should find opportunities to engage. Sometimes I find conversations with friends now that we live in the West far more difficult than the conversations we had back in Afghanistan. So I think creating that environment is probably the first thing. Now that 5 years have passed, I think we're getting there. People have started coming together and talking and collaborating, and that sort of immediate anger is no longer there. Anger from what happened in August 2021 and the way Kabul fell. I see more and more young leaders sort of being very creative, thinking long term, and engaging with one another, on how to deal with this situation. So this is a collective responsibility. I think this is something that we all should be able to talk to, and I hope that through your program I talk to a much younger audience who should feel even a greater sense of responsibility for their country.
I'm sure they do. But in general, if we think about Afghans who leave the country, who have left the country after 2021, you talked about the anger, and I think trauma overall, I'm not very comfortable using the word trauma because our lives as Afghans, it was full of that. But when we left the country, we needed some time to think about what happened, to process that and reflect. And I'm happy that you have that observation that maybe the Afghans in the diaspora, they're healing a bit. Do you have any advice to people who are in that journey, as someone who has done that yourself?
I think first look after yourself. That's probably the beginning of any healing process. And then your family. And then of course, sometimes we have to seek help. Culturally, we're kind of against it, yeah. But that's not good. But this is what we're dealing with. I mean, we have to be honest to ourselves. I think we all needed or still need a space to scream and be heard, mm-hmm. And for most people, they don't have that opportunity, and that's quite sad. But this was inevitable for a society like ours, particularly a generation like ours, that we have. We lost so much, You just don't lose your job and your income, or the materialistic things that are around you. You lose your eyesight, you lose your vision, you lose your future. You lose those dreams for the years and decades in front of you, and it is very natural that if you're angry about it, yes. I think we should sympathize with everyone who has strong feelings. But that is not the answer. Mm-hmm. We have to move beyond that. True. We have to help each other to move beyond that. Especially that our country is relying so much on the power of youth, inside the country and outside the country.
I like that you mentioned that the anger, it is a healthy feeling after everything that happened, but we shouldn't let that be the end of it. That can be a source of resilience, of strength and motivation to keep doing the work that we're doing. It's been a pleasure to talk to you.
Likewise, pleasure is all mine.
Any parting words of wisdom you'd like to share?
I just wish you well, and please, I'm very excited to sort of see you grow, and for the show to be it is a success, to be even a greater success, and hopefully we can switch seats next time.
I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you again for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Until next episode of NexusTalk, stay informed, stay inspired.